There is some absolutely wild speculation going around in the wrestling community today following the truly shocking news detailing the WWE's viewership for the Raw and Netflix episode this week. And it appears as though WWE is already faced with a massive problem with this new Netflix deal, and Triple H is reportedly furious with how things are developing, and no doubt a lot of fans saw this coming a mile away when this deal between WWE and Netflix was announced, and this partnership could very well soon be coming to an abrupt end as Netflix looks to cut ties with WWE after realizing the mistake they've made. Now, what we will say is that the Raw and Netflix debut show on January 6th was a pretty big success for WWE, ratings and viewership-wise, with the premiere episode drawing a reported 5.9 million viewers, something that we have been told was very positive news for Netflix officials who were a bit worried about how WWE would fare on their streaming service. However, when you actually look past that positive rating, there was a good reason for why WWE had such a big spike in ratings for that debut episode. And it's not because fans were excited about WWE's moving their flagship show to Netflix. As many of you can likely attest to, the amount of promotion WWE put into that Raw Netflix debut for months leading up to the premiere was next level. You literally couldn't go 5 minutes without the advertisement of the Raw Netflix premiere being shown. And not only just advertising, but the show was also being booked like it was a pay-per-view quality event. The matches promoted for it helped draw in the buzz, including the Tribal Combat match between Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa, Seth Rollins versus CM Punk in the main event, the Women's World Title match between Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley, plus all the special moments or returning superstars teased for this debut show. It was inevitable that WWE were going to pull a good rating for that debut episode of Raw on Netflix because of all the insane hype and just the overall curiosity of fans and even non-fans wanting to see what the WWE would look like on the Netflix platform. But was what WWE garnered in terms of viewership for that debut episode going to be sustainable for the company moving forward? Absolutely not. And that is shown in the weeks following the premiere, which has led to a lot of worry behind the scenes in WWE about the deal with Netflix, as there are shocking rumors going around about what some high-ranking Netflix officials feel about the ratings WWE have pulled for Raw since that debut episode. It's not a good trend, that's for sure. While the viewership for this week's episode of Raw on Netflix, the show which aired on January 20th, hasn't been released yet, we can only assume that the number decreased even more from the number WWE pulled last week. For the January 13th episode of Raw on Netflix, it was reported earlier today that the January 13th Raw on Netflix episode, which was the week following the premiere, lost 2.2 million global viewers, which means the second week of Raw, being on Netflix, suffered from a 37% viewership decline to 3.7 million viewers in just the show's second week of being on the platform, meaning that the initial hype is already gone and things have completely settled down, only to get worse in the coming weeks. On top of that, while some fans may try to argue that 3.7 million viewers is still high and better than what WWE was pulling for the show on the USA Network, it should be noted that you can't compare the results or numbers of Raw being on Netflix to the viewership Raw pulled on the USA Network, as Netflix reports global viewership for 7 full days, whereas the USA Network ratings were for the same day viewing and only in the United States, so not impressive whatsoever. And actually the viewership for Raw has been worse on Netflix when you do the analytics. Now, there was quite a bit of pushback from wrestling fans when the announcement was made about WWE moving Raw to Netflix, as many felt like the company moving Raw from the USA Network to Netflix was a bad long-term decision and that many weren't going to get a Netflix subscription just to watch the show. Although this deal between WWE and Netflix won't be canceled immediately, there is reportedly already concern behind the scenes that some Netflix higher-ups aren't liking the immediate decline in viewership for Raw since the debut episode, and that the trend looks like the viewership will continue to fall in the coming months, as the worry is that many wrestling fans, especially the older demographic of fans, are seemingly not transitioning from cable television to Netflix to watch Monday Night Raw, and are instead fine watching highlights of the show on WWE's official YouTube channel. Now, the deal WWE signed with Netflix was for 10 years, but the deal may not last that long, as some have forgotten that it was revealed last year when this Netflix and WWE deal was announced that Netflix can choose to opt out of the partnership after 5 years, just as easily as they could extend the deal for another 10 years. Considering the viewership is already dipping significantly 2 weeks into Raw being moved to Netflix, the concern right now in WWE is that Netflix are already getting cold feet on this deal, regardless of what some of the Netflix executives are saying to the media right now about the partnership with WWE. Of course, they're going to say that everything's looking good about Raw being on Netflix, but the latest speculation is that there is a growing concern behind the scenes about this deal, and Netflix may very well choose to cut ties with WWE after 5 years. One of our sources has reported that Triple H is well aware of the underlying sentiment from Netflix regarding the decrease in viewership for Monday Night Raw since the debut episode 2 weeks ago, and this is something that has reportedly infuriated Triple H, who was fully expecting for the viewership to dip after the premiere episode for obvious reasons. That initial show on January 6th was hyped up to an insane degree, and Hunter is reportedly well aware that level of viewership isn't going to be sustainable all throughout the year, so Triple H feels a bit angry at the fact that some within Netflix are already getting cold feet on this deal between Netflix and WWE because of the fact that ratings or viewership has dropped significantly 1 week after the debut episode. We have heard that Triple H is trying to make it clear to Netflix that everything's going well with Monday Night Raw moving to the platform, and that a decrease in viewership following the Netflix debut is something that has to be expected, and no reason for concern right now. Hunter reportedly made it clear that he expects there to be a sustained uptick in ratings and viewership for Raw on Netflix after the Royal Rumble, as we officially begin the WrestleMania 41 season. However, there is still a concern that Netflix, who are famous for canceling shows all the time, will choose to opt out of the deal in 5 years, as there is even a belief that Netflix were actually a bit disappointed with the Raw Netflix premiere viewership, with there apparently being some within Netflix who believed WWE were going to rival the numbers Jake Paul and Mike Tyson pulled for their fight, which was streamed live on Netflix, the furthest thing from the case. There's a solid chance that Triple H and WWE will be forced to move Monday Night Raw back to cable television 5 years from now and work out another deal with the USA Network. Because if Netflix are already starting to get cold feet on the deal with WWE, that's definitely not a great sign, as wrestling has many ups and downs, and it's not always going to be an upward trend. And if Netflix were disappointed with the ratings WWE drew for the Raw Netflix premiere, then all we can say is that this partnership is going to be a short-lived one, and a lot of fans will likely look at this as good news, considering there's a chance that Raw will be moving back to cable television a few years from now. Make sure you guys have subscribed to the channel with post notifications turned on, so that you'll never miss out on a video. Well guys, that's it for today's major wrestling news. Make sure you leave a like and comment, and if you haven't already, give us a follow on Twitter at TSE Wrestling, and we will see you guys in the next video.